We'll see if this gets irritating or not, this little pointer. And looks decent from this standpoint, but we'll get feedback from folks as they start to jump in. So what's good? What's good? Yeah, I don't know if it's late where you at or if it's early where you at, but I'm looking for some devil's advocates, if you will, and we're going to talk about spirituality. We're going to talk about, and I want to talk about the basics. I'm trying to explain this simply. So we'll give people a few minutes to join in, and and we'll see. I just want to get your comments because I'm going to be talking about this to a group of people, and I want to get your feedback on this. And we can get into some rabbit holes if you want to, but I'm trying to look at things that get away from the things that divide us, and still explain things that that have value and are profound when you really get into them. So, as people start to get in, we'll go through it. But there's different levels, right? So there's the ground level, right? The surface level, if you will. There's the earthly level, or there's the planetary level, if you will, and then there's the, galactic or cosmic level. So, for example, the conflicts that we're experiencing on the surface level, you won't see on the planetary level, right? As far as, what is causing some of the actions that we're seeing. I mean, we're close to potentially having World War III, right? So, but the reasons why it's going on are, things that are happening on this level, right? So there's different levels to it. So we're just talking about life in general. And the whole deal with me, for those that don't know, my whole thing and kind of what I'm preach all the time, if you will, quote unquote, is that with spiritual beings having a human experience. And this is a realization that I've come to in my own experience, looking at someone who's basically reprogrammed himself to the best of my ability, right? And really started from scratch. And I had to just look at a whole lot of different things. But the bottom line is when you remove what you're not, what is left, right? So we're human beings, right? And we can break the words down and all that, but the being is the spiritual part, or the you is the spiritual part. The man is the physical part. So we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So anything that talks about the actual spiritual aspect of us, right? Whether it's something that's written on a rock or on a tablet or on papyrus or in a holy book or whatever sense of morality is based on something that some other man wrote, and that man or woman is having an experience just like you are, right? They're also a spiritual being. And you can look at it this way, right? From a spiritual standpoint, look at spirit and air as being kind of the similar things. So from an air standpoint, imagine how silly it is for the same air that's in the lung of this person to be fighting the same air that's in the lungs of this person, right? But if these people don't realize that they are the air that's in them, and they think that they're just their bodies or just whatever they identify as, right? Then these really are just expressions of these ideas unconsciously fighting each other. And it's the same thing that's powering all of them, the same spirit that's powering all of them, the same consciousness that's powering the whole deal, right? I mean, it's so when we talk about being spiritually awake, you're realizing that the other person is just another aspect of yourself. Well, whether they realize it or not, whether they behave that way or not, is their level of awareness as to who they are. That's why they talk about knowing yourself and things of that nature. But when you look at a room of people, you can see what looks to be individual people in that room, but it's just one spirit or one air, if you will. So that's the whole aspect of the spiritual aspect. So now when you look at the other, you're seeing another aspect of yourself. So you have more empathy towards the other person because you know that what is in them, the spirit and air and being that they are, is the same thing that you are. So what happens here is we fight each other over not the actual experience or the doctrine and the dogma and all of the egos and things that go with, being right and all of these things, right? And these are systems of control that keep us bickering back and forth, so that we don't realize that we are the same thing, right? So now we're fighting each other and not cooperating, right? And that's the kind of situation that we're in now. Because the things that, again, we're fighting over have nothing to do with our true selves, right? The air that's within it. So just look at it like that. There's no white air, there's no black air, there's no this nationality air, this nationality air. Air is colorless, air is nationless, air is genderless. Same thing as your spirit, right? So similar things. So we're just the spiritual beings inhabiting these physical bodies. A lot of us have not realized the aspects of the spiritual aspects of ourselves, and we've identified with the body or the ego or other things. So again, the whole spiritual journey is removing those things that you're not to reveal what's there, right? And the 100-degree challenge is just something that I've wrote out as far as a series of steps that just show the possibility of this being true, that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, just using a simple set of facts. These are all things that you can prove to yourself. What's up, Jibbity P? What's going on, boss? Good to see you, man. So I thought the whole air analogy, air and spirit. I mean, when you really, I know it's simple, and I'm trying to keep it simple, but because a lot of people want to get into these details, they can accept that, okay, this is possible. Okay, I see what you're saying. We're all the same air. We're part of the same spirit, blah, blah, blah. But what about in the Bible, it says such and such, or in this book, it says such and such. And again, these are all belief systems. These are all things. These are all things that have paper, or even rocks have paper and rock trails. And it boils down to a person or man, woman, however you want to look at it, having their own experience. And that person is the same. Again, when you boil it down, it's that same air or spirit that you are. Right? So they're just an example of the possibility of what a spiritual being can do. Anyone that we read about and the things that they've done are just examples of things that we can do ourselves. So, I just wanted to kind of get some feedback on this from y'all's standpoint. And again, I want to get to a point to also show, like, everyone's on their own path of ascension, right? We all have our awakening phases, and your path of ascension, your path of awakening is not going to be like mine. All the paths are different, but the peak is the same, right? And that's an internal thing. It's an internal realization, a self-realization. But the whole point of the people that have been before us showing us the possibility of it is just showing us that it is it's real, right? And some belief systems don't show you that possibility. It's deified in certain people and said that only certain people can do these things, when they're just examples of what you can do as well. But anyway, that path of how to get from where you are now to that realization of the fullness of your being is your own personal path, just like your own personal fingerprint, right? And it's going to vary depending on you. Right, it's a personal thing. The whole point of what I'm trying to show is that there's more to the story than what we've been told, than just our physical selves. And that spiritual being that you are is more expansive than you realize. Just like the air that's in your lungs is small compared to the air that's outside of it, but it's the same air, right? You're only experiencing just a small amount of it at a time, at a breath. You're only experiencing a small amount of your spirit incarnated here, for example, right? As you incarnate, spirit has its Latin roots in the word breathe and breath, right? So, this kind of plays in with this analogy as well. Oh, thanks for the drawings, huh? Yeah, it's not about God. Yeah, no, right. It's not about God. No, it's not about Christianity. I'm sorry. I was just had my head down. I was looking at this stuff. Yeah, it's not Christianity. No, it has nothing to do with Christianity or any belief system. See, like, that's all here. That's all of these things. This is about the being experiencing the belief system, right? So this is that that aspect of yourself, right? This is saying that you can't have a body and be a body, just like you can't have a car and be a car. So you're the spiritual being experiencing the body. The body is just feeding you all the input, right? It's not about God or any kind of religion. Yeah, I appreciate the little comment about my joints. The subconscious is our connection to the. Yeah, and here's the thing. So we're trying to keep this simple because we can get complicated, if you will, but the complication doesn't change the simplicity of it. So, because the language still doesn't get you any closer. We can talk about this till we're all blue in the face. The whole idea is for you to have this experience yourself and to know it for yourself. So we're just pointing the way. So I mean, it's just something to keep in mind. Like words are only going to get us so far. We're just showing the possibility of there being more. And you know, it's been talked about before, but the thing about it now is it's not like a pie in the sky thing that would just be a nice to have. If you look at the trajectory of where humanity is going, if we don't change our level of consciousness as a whole, we're going to continue on this path of self-destruction, right? We're going to self-destruct. Unless we do something differently, unless we change, unless we start to see that this person that we're fighting, that this earth that we all are a part of, that we don't have a backup to, is something that we should treat differently, right? We should treat Earth as the only ship that we have sustaining us in this, you know, in the vastness of space, and we should look at the other person as another expression of ourselves, right? So if we're able to make that shift in consciousness, and that's there. Like, that's not me having a belief system or anything like that. It's not me preaching, well, this is what I believe, like this is it. Like, that's what I'm saying. This is getting it down to its bare bones. Now, we add stuff onto it, and a lot of the stuff that we fight over are the things that have been added to it by another man's experience, and people fighting over this experience or that experience, or people that are just like them, that have that same spirit within them that these same people that have been deified are talking about. So it's just something to keep in mind. And science is catching up to this in a way. Science is dogmatic as well. My whole thing is, I don't know, from a time standpoint, if we have the time to wait for science to validate what we already know to be true from a mainstream standpoint. I think there needs to be a movement by those that are aware of this, you know, and I talked about this before, just having a formation of, you know, like these lights. You know, these lights are independent lights that are bright and shining on their own, but as they, you know, form a different shape, it gives it a different look, right? You know, it's just us coming together. And it's been talked about a lot. And I'm in the process of doing that now. That's why I haven't been posting as much, because I'm working on this event, and I'm going to play around with some of these concepts in there, and a lot of different things. So that's like one of my, so coming up like this Saturday, actually, it's one of my Nexus events in my timeline. That's going way off the deep end, but yeah, there's a lot going on with that. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this as far as spiritual beings having a human experience, and a lot of the things that we fight over are not this basic fact, but it's the details of other beings' experiences, and we end up going back and forth about that, you know, and about very superficial things, and that's another rabbit hole, but you know, it is what it is. We will still have to answer to the government at the subconscious arc. And let's see, did you know that the Earth being a globe and yeah, right, correct, yeah, correct, absolutely. And here's the thing, and that's a good point. So, okay, if you deduce down, you know, where we are, like if you didn't believe take anyone's word for it, right? I can't prove to you that we're living on a flat plane or a globe myself, because I've never got up to this point and saw this myself, right? So, and I know there's been a lot of deception in a lot of other ways. And so yeah, that's definitely a possibility, and that's something that could be used to, another argument point. But the thing is, regardless of whether this is circular, flat, or whatever, it still that still doesn't solve the problem that we're experiencing, right? It still, to me, it still doesn't get to the fundamental root cause of what's going on here. It's like we're still, whether this is a globe or whether this still is a flat plane or a cube, right? We'll still self-destruct ourselves regardless of the plane if we don't correct our level of consciousness and how we see ourselves. We can go on another planet, and if we haven't fixed ourselves here, we're going to take this same mentality, we're going to take this same stuff to another planet, and it's just going to happen again. So it's not like running to another planet or to another solar system is going to fix what's the problem. When our problem is our level of consciousness. We've seen ourselves as other than what we are. We've gotten to the details and believe that we're something other than what we are. And the truth is just something to help. It's really not something. It is what it is. It's a reality. The truth is reality. So if this isn't true, then what's false about it, right? And if something's false, then I want to correct that as well, because I'm not attached to anything. None of us own the truth. Okay, here's a mind boggle. The word extraterrestrial being an analogy for extraterrestrial. Well, yeah, you think about extraterrestrials. We're all extraterrestrial on some level, right? If you don't, if you believe that other life out there exists in the universe, then you would be an alien to them. So an alien could look like a whole lot of other things, including what we look like in the mirror. So, but that's really what we wanted to, we're all ready to start, is that absolutely. So when I look at this, I like this little analogy, like light interactive fractal experience, life, right? So we're all made of stardust, right? So, and that stardust is from stars. So we're part of the life cycle of stars, and we're actually that light experiencing itself, right? So it's in a fractal kind of way, and just like we're made of the earth and we're part of the earth, we're part of the universe. And this same shape is the same shape of a galaxy, and the same shape of a hurricane, and the same shape of the swirl in the back of your head, and the same shape of your hand when you curl it, right? So all of these things that are part of this fractal experience, and it's a light interactive, because it's all light, it's all spirit, it's all ourselves. So creator and everything, absolutely. Have you ever seen what stars look like really close up? So you're probably talking about the watery. I've seen. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, Fibonacci sequence, absolutely. So good and bad. Yeah, good and bad. And good and bad is a perspective. That's why I put this here. This is plus and minus, this experience of duality. That's part of this experience, right? And here, what makes Earth. This is from what I hear. Again, I haven't been off planet and researched this myself, but or seen this myself or talked to these entities, blah, blah, blah. But it would seem, because this is a very contrast and polarized experience, because I've heard other civilizations elsewhere in the galaxy don't have as much leeway or as much free will as there is on this planet. So it's like Earth is a advanced level, because you can go from 0 to 100, if you will, where other realities may have a tighter range. So there's more duality here. There's a lot of light here, and then there's a lot of dark here. But that's free will. That's the ability to incorporate both of them into yourself and realize that they're both aspects of yourself, and you get that balance of the being part, and you don't identify with anything that's human anyway. But again, that's other other levels. I'm just trying to show the basics and really put this on a higher perspective and a higher stage, and really show like how much we get involved in the details. Like, we're killing each other in the planet over details that are not part of the larger and the bigger picture that we're all a part of, right? We're killing each other over ideas of what this air is that we're all breathing, that we're all a part of, because we think it's black air or it's white air or it's this country's air or that country's air or left air, right air, right? And that's really the basics of what's going on here. It's been going on for a while, so we're used to it, and we're kind of caught into that cycle. But it's as simple as that. I mean, and let me know if I'm looking at this wrong, because I agree with you too, man. I mean, love definitely is the answer. Do you think that raising human consciousness to higher vibration can lead to immortality? Well, here's the thing, is that when you raise your consciousness to that higher vibration, you realize that you're already immortal. You're already that spiritual being, right? So the journey leads you back to yourself at the end of the day, right? That's why they talk about know thyself, right? You're already that being. You're not adding anything to yourself. So, so it can lead to the realization of your own immortality, and now you look at death as a different thing. It's not an ending, but just a door to another beginning. You look at death as just an inhale and exhale of the spirit. The incarnation is the inhale of the spirit, okay? And you breathe and you do what you do, and the exhale is the death, right? And the spirit continues, the spirit that you are, right? And it continues, it gets inhaled by another being, incarnates again, reincarnates, re-inhale, right? So something to think about. Yeah, everybody dies, but does the air die? Does the spirit die? Does the consciousness die? So, and as far as immortality of the body, I mean, we can go down that rabbit hole, but I think that's a possibility as well. Yeah, I think it's definitely a possibility to have the body to as it replicates, repair itself without aging, pretty much. I'm sure it's possible. Okay, let's see. Okay, your individual consciousness. Yeah, your individual consciousness. Yeah, your individual consciousness is immortal. Absolutely. Yeah, right here, right now. So your consciousness that's looking at this is already immortal. And when we talk about immortal, we talked about this before, just outside of space and time. You're experiencing space and time right here and now from a different aspect outside of that, right here and right now. So when you quote unquote die, you're just exiting space and time, and it's like taking the goggles off of this experience, of this input that you're getting from your body, right? Your awareness, your spirit, your consciousness is just focused on where you are now, because you got two eyes, you got ears, you got all this input that's putting it here, right? And when you go to sleep, that goes off, and you create another world that can be just as rich as this one, right? It's a fractal experience, right? And that light that is the world that you created inside of your head when you're asleep is the same light that's in the world that you see outside. It's the same light that's within you. Like we're that light. That's spirit. Yes, death is a vessel, but not spirit. So there are also people that have left. Yeah, I'm with you. I've heard the stories. Terry the Jack, what's good? Hey, aloha, Rise of Starseed. Oh, speaking of Starseed, so let me get your thoughts on this. So I mean, and again, ask me any questions on this. I'm just showing the simplicity of us being spiritual beings having a human experience. The things that we fight over are within these imaginary boxes, and some may be real, but are based on other people's experiences, and they're still spiritual beings, right? Whether they're beliefs, dog systems, whether they're religious ideologies, whether they're political systems, whether they're nationalities, these are all imaginary things that is being experienced by spiritual beings, the same spirit, just like the same air that's within the lungs of two people fighting each other, right? So that simplicity, right? Um, just to understand that's what we're building this on, and a lot of the fighting happens on this minute details. We're fighting over things that don't matter on the larger scale. And this is important because, yeah, it would be one thing to just say, I want to be intellectually right, but these have consequences that are going to affect us and future generations on the only ship that we have in this ocean of vastness that we have, right? The Earth. So it doesn't make sense to harm the only thing keeping you alive. Um, so let's see, what you guys? Mostly our imaginary is probably some true for the most part. What do you say? What do you mean? Mostly are imaginary. Let me know about that, Pharaoh. Mostly are imaginary. Well, I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Part of the third density. Yeah, the third density. Yeah, it's dense. I mean, and okay, let's talk about density because I thought about this as well. As a light being, and when you think about light being, I mean, so what we're seeing is only a small scale of what's available to see, the visual spectrum, right? So we're experiencing limited things. I mean, when you think about it, what you focus on, what you're able to kind of clearly see, it's only like your fingernail width, your arm's distance, all right? Everything else is kind of blurry. So we only see from a certain frequency, you only are going to taste what's in your mouth. You're only going to be able to touch what's around you. So we're limited in our vicinity and from our spectrum of what we can experience. So if there's things that are on a higher level or a lower level or outside of what we can see, then we wouldn't be able to experience them. We wouldn't be able to see them. And there's so much that's out there, so much of, just like us. Just think about your spirit, right? All of the breaths that you breathe, they say you're going to breathe, 670 million breaths in your lifetime. You can't get all of those breaths right now, right? You got to breathe one at a time, right? But if you had all that breath at one time, I mean, you couldn't take it all, right? But one at a time, you breathe because you're not worried about carrying that with you because that abundance comes. Like you're not worried about breathing. When you realize that spiritual aspect of yourself, you don't need any external validation to love yourself. You don't need any. You turn your own fountain on, if you will, and you turn your own light on. I mean, that's really what enlightenment is about. You become a lighthouse now. You begin to reflect that light within you to others. And you begin to shine yourself, and that shining works both ways. It works you from the inside as well because it also helps cleanse some of the things that you work through because we're all still evolving and growing beings. So it's not like that becomes an end. It's really just another door, just like death is another door. So we have program. Absolutely. Yeah. The beliefs, that's part of the game. Program with us with limited beliefs, keep us fighting over each other so that, this group gets the resources and this, that, and the other, and this doesn't, and then there's a longer agenda that you see going on with the basically they're creating a real matrix, they call it the metaverse, but you can see where it's going, kind of like you'll see it Ready Player One before you see it real Matrix, quote unquote. But Neuralink's not going to be too far behind. And they're going to want you to spend most of their time inside of this fake reality while they experience the real one. And they'll have more control, just like they control these imaginary boxes. There'll be more control in the digital boxes that are going to look just as real as this eventually, right? So that's where they're going. And you can see it now. This is not me just making this up. I mean, they're going to do it. The question is, are we going to have the awareness to be able to utilize this technology, these things that are going to happen in a better light than we're going to use, right? So, it's up to us. No one's going to come save us. Yes, even at the death. After death, we rest and continue learning. Yeah. And we still continue learning. Absolutely, Aloha. I'm with you. But, most of you guys are probably, preaching to the choir, kind of. I guess from a, I guess from a, because again, I'm thinking about what's not simple about it. So I guess that's just what I'll try to think through it. So that's why I'm running with you guys to see, if you can think of something simpler between the analogy of being spiritual beings having human experience, being like air experience and being, human. And we're all, breathing the same air, even two races, people fighting each other, huffing and puffing are breathing the same air. They're breathing the same air and they're fighting each other, right? And it's just as silly as that. The straight hair imaginary guy is fighting the curly hair imaginary guy. They're both imaginary guys. So each reincarnation you forget and go through the process of remembering once again. Yeah, so that's the interesting thing. And of course, there's things, of course, I, don't know it all by any stretch. So there's plenty of things that I, question and things of that nature. And that's one of them, as far as reincarnation. Because I've heard different stories, and it's like these are things you can't prove, right? I mentioned before, even if you try to measure this down, you're going to get to the point to where you're just going to be able to just measure the limits of the physical instrument. Let's say this is the world's best telescope or microscope. It's only going to be able to, let's say it got down to the Planck scale. It's not going to be able to measure the thing that's moving, right, what they're taking a look at. Right. Let's say they're looking at a photon, right? And then that movement, let's say that photon they're looking at is the fluctuation of the string behind string theory. They won't be able to see what makes it fluctuate, right? And the intelligence behind that powers all of this, right? So there's going to be limits to what technology are going to be able to give us, right? So the experiences is going to be important. But I do wonder if there's certain technologies in this area, because we're talking about extreme free will for a while. I mean, when you look at just history, just more of just recent history, but let's take it off planet. I mean, we're going there. We talk about starseeds from what I've heard and what seems to make the most sense. So this isn't our first rodeo, right? We've lived before. Spirit has breathed before, right? This isn't the first time it's been in someone's lungs, right? This isn't the first time you've been in someone's lungs. So, we've been here before. And the thing is, some of this fighting seems to have been a repetition of past things. So I wonder if there's truth to that. And I also wonder how much of the real truth can we get to here? Because there's a whole lot of lies to really what's going on. So that's one of the things that interests me. So, I mean, it hasn't been given to us yet by the people or divulged yet by people in certain places. So I don't think they're going to do it. So it's up to us to search ourselves, fact check ourselves. We're just not doing it yet. Because I wonder if that forgetfulness is purposeful, right? When you talk about when you forget. So, yeah, since immortality has already been achieved. Let's see, what else did we talk about? Let's see, hold on, let me go back. Sorry, y'all. I'm trying to do all this with, I've been inside of many people. Oh, goodness, Pharaoh. Oh, slow down. All right, yo, I am waking. What's good, boss? Okay, yeah, I thought there was another question. That's a good one. Yeah, I appreciate y'all joining in, and here's the thing, this perspective, and this is where the imagination doesn't really allow you to go, because that's a whole different perspective. That's a whole different, that's a limiting perspective, right? What we're dealing with now, the limitations, right? You're dealing with belief systems clashing. So when you switch to this perspective, now these limits are gone. I mean, they're not here anyway. That's part of the matrix is operating within false limits that have been programmed to us, right? That doesn't, like these rules that we're going by, right? These imaginary rules that we're going by are man-made rules. You know, the earth did not make these rules, right? The air that we are, the spirit that we are, didn't make these rules. These are rules that we're just continuing because we've always done them. We're creatures of habit. But we're also very resilient, and we also can change quick. Just look how quick we went pre-COVID to COVID to whatever we're in now. So we can also go to this new reality. It will be painful, but so is childbirth. But we can go to that, and the thing is, we can talk about the value of going to that, because now the flip is switched, right? So now the 99%, if you will, are the ones that realize that they're the ones that have the power, right? So now you create whole different systems that are not involving destroying the environment for profit, but for sustaining and for helping each other, right? When we get to this level of realizing that we're all the same spiritual being, right? You see the other as yourself, as another fractal of yourself, as another light, if you will. So you want to help that light shine as bright as just as you can, right? And that's a whole different experience. That's an experience of cooperation versus competition. But look at yourself. You're an example of trillions of cells cooperating, right? All your cells are cooperating for you. If they were competing, it'd be a different story. So let's see. What was the question? What is imagination? So I like, good question, and we'll shut this off in a little bit, if you will. I talked about imagination before. I mean, I'm sure different people have different views, but I like to think of it as really it's time travel almost, because you can imagine scenarios where things didn't work, and that saves you time in reality with not doing those scenarios, if you will. Or you can imagine a certain design from every angle so that when it's time to create it, you know exactly how it is. So you're creating it on a level that's not physical. And the more that you imagine, the more that you pour energy and time into it, the more detail comes into the drawing, comes into the imagination. So now when it's time to print it from that imaginary etheric state that you put energy to into this reality, it's a real quick print, right? It's a quick print because you've imagined every detail. You know exactly how it's going to look. So when it's time to, spit it out. So, visions are kind of like that. When people say they got visions, they see the whole thing. But that's kind of how I think of imagination. Connecting is a part of you. Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate this connection with you guys, man. I mean, from my perspective, I feel like I'm in the trenches, and we all probably feel that way. And I'm a quiet guy, even though every time you see me, I run out my mouth, but I'm really quiet. That's part of the reason we take on the veil. Every incarnation, we see a different perspective. Yeah. I mean, this perspective, like now here, is crazy, though. I mean, there's a lot of starseeds here. So, I mean, we can talk, right? About quote unquote crazy stuff. Because one of the good quotes from, I think it was Krishnamurti is, and I'm going to butcher it, but basically, it's not sane. It's not good to be considered sane in a crazy world or being acclimated to a crazy world. But basically, it's saying that the people that they're saying are crazy are actually sane because the world is crazy. So, it's actually better to be insane because you actually look at this world and say, wait a minute, this is crazy. Why are we doing this? Why are spiritual beings fighting each other? We're the same air, we're the same spirit. That's stupid. Right? We're killing each other. We're destroying our planet. We don't have another one to go to. For what? For imaginary profit? Like, for what? It's stupid. Like, why are we doing this? So, I mean, and we can stop it tomorrow if we wanted to. There's no stopping us. But anyway, I think there's some history there with the Starseeds. But anyway, this time, I think it's being watched on a lot of different perspectives because of the variation, right? Because of the duality. But there's still work to be done, right? But we talked about imagination, right? So this work that you're seeing now, even this pen is the work, or stick, however you want to look at it, is the work of imagination, right? taking an idea and physically manifesting it, right? Just the same as this video is, just the same as this life is, from a spiritual standpoint. I believe some of you are here as well that are here to help with this ascension, because as we ascend, it's helping the earth ascend. It's helping multiple levels as it's all connected. It's like taking one piece and taking a sheet and pulling the sheet up. All of it moves, right? Like the tide in the ocean. When the tide rises, all of the ships in the ocean rise. So this is an important time. So you got some brave guys and gals, and I know from a spiritual standpoint, it's not guys and gals, but you got me. That can lead to a conversation about, I appreciate the confetti. Let's see. Here, go back. Multiverse and parallel universes. Yep, we talked about that. And so just let's go back to that. And I guess we're going to go a little long, but you guys chilling, I'm chilling. Multiverse and parallel universe, right? So it's like a tree. It's almost like your hand, almost like palm readers are kind of picking up on your life, your fractal, your energy wave, your lightning strike, if you will. But it can go in different ways, right? So that's just the idea of you splitting off and you doing both possibilities, kind of like the double slit experiment, right? Where it splits off. And so, we've seen that on the minute scale, right, of the things that make up the U scale. So it's definitely possible. And so, yeah, absolutely. I think this is part of it. So we're able to shift, and it's the same consciousness, the same spirit experiencing them all. So there's a reason why you're focused in on this one, right? Out of all of the ones that you can focus on, you're focusing on this one, and there's a reason for it, right? So there was a time when there was nobody that knew everything, man. Everyone was, yeah. I think so. I think we definitely had our dark ages, and now we're coming into a new renaissance where some of this stuff that was known before, I think we've devolved, if you will. We knew things. We're remembering a lot of what we already knew in the past, right? So I definitely feel that. Let's see, if everything is opposite and you think it's backwards and I'm no longer part of it, right? No, I feel you on that. No, but you guys see it all the time. People that subscribe to the insanity, the mainstream news, the narrative, the separation, all of this stuff, and it's a repeating pattern. It's a repeating script. It's the same script. They run the same script, right? Because they're not creative. They're not creators. They're not spiritual. They're not about expansion. They're about control. So they run the same script. Appreciate it, Lex. Yeah, we come a long way. We have come a long way. If you look at we'll look at it for we'll look at it from a planetary perspective. Yeah, we came a long way. We're still growing. Like I was thinking about what is awakening looking like, just a decent scale, and looking at it from a human standpoint as well. We were talking. One is order. You got your stuff in order. And we'll play around with the idea. Just think of someone's house. You go to someone's house, right? Okay, the sink's not working. This ain't working. That ain't working. This ain't working. Okay, you got to do this to get that to work, right? Things are not in order, okay? So that's one thing, right? And the other thing is accountability, right? So you're constantly checking yourself. You're self-driven. You don't have the victim mentality. That's the other thing, the victim mentality. So when you're blaming others, it's their fault. They did this, such and such. So order, things work. It has nothing to do with money or anything like that. You can just have nothing, but your nothing that you have is purposeful and works, right? And that's one thing. And the other is victim mentality, because that's going to give you an excuse to not to stay in that box. And that's exactly what they want. They want you to stay in that box. They don't want you to ascend. They don't want you to become Superman. It's easy to control Clark Kent. Let's put him back in his cage, put his glasses on, and make him think that, that he's not who he is. Everyone is on their path, whether they know it or not. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, I'm going to shout you. Hey, all right, no problem. Appreciate it, Pharaoh. Appreciate it, boss. All righty, y'all. I appreciate y'all joining in. Like I say, we're going to keep it short. But, yeah, if you got – I love you. Hey, appreciate it. Appreciate it. Aloha. Yeah. But yeah, this is the level that I want to talk to. And this is from I've been at this for a while, y'all. This is from being in the field. I'm in the field now. I have my hat. Let me tell you, show you what my hat stands for. Just spiritual high. So I'm going to change it up. Spiritual high intensity field training shift, right? Talk about a shift in consciousness. So I'm in the field, right? And I'm hoping that this event will clear the path for me to exit, So, and to do something else. Because this has been a journey getting to this point. But yeah, it's been a lot of work to get to this point, and hopefully this event sparks some things. But this is the level that I want to talk to. I've tried to avoid the rabbit hole that people get caught up on, and let's just get down to just the bare basics, and then we can talk about the value, and then now you can compare the value. Now you can say, okay, well, this is what we got, this is what we're going to get, this is what we're going to continue to get. Well, what if I looked at this, right? You can just do a thought experiment. We talk about imagination. Imagine what the world would look like. I have plenty of ideas of what we can do differently, right? This opens up a whole perspective that isn't in a belief system that's controlled, right? And this skips a lot of things that keep us bickering and fighting back and forth. So that's kind of why I try to kind of talk to it like that. So appreciate the likes, appreciate y'all jumping in, and really, I mean, you can go wherever you want to go with it, because this doesn't matter. I know we got Starseeds and aliens and whatever on here, but you're still a conscious spiritual being. So it doesn't matter what your body looks like. That's another thing, that this whole savior mentality can be a new agey kind of thing too, waiting for an alien to come down. And I do think we're being observed, definitely, and I think they're here as well. But the idea of them coming down and saving us, and that doesn't help us from an evolution standpoint when you think about it as well. Just think about it from a child standpoint. Does your child learn that lesson if you continue to clean their room? They have to learn themselves, right? You have to put the dog in his own crap to realize that, hey, I shouldn't be crapping here, right? So we have to learn this as a collective. But the thing is, this is a lesson that we don't want to continue to repeat, because it's a costly lesson to learn, right? I mean, we don't get to replay the earth, right? The things that we damage, we don't get to replay those things back. So each day that we continue to play the old script, each day that we continue to play these roles, we're continuing to dig a hole for ourselves that we'll have to get out of, and some of the stuff we won't get back. We won't get back. So we just have to keep that in mind. There's a sense of urgency. I've had a sense of urgency for years, but it's just not. We have to still take action. I know some people say, "Oh, we won. We did this." Okay, that's cool. That's a good imaginary thing. I think we all can see that, but that doesn't happen until we do something. Right? This is a physical matter reality. We got to do something. Right? We all want to get here where we're levitating and floating, but we're here. How do we get here? Right? That's where we are. If you're watching this, you're in this part. This is the part. This is the dirty work. This is the part no one wants to do, right? Because here is good, it's comfortable, you're on the ground. But wait a minute, you follow. How you get up here, right? This is where they send in the specialists. That's why you're here, right? But anyway, so this is the part that we have to do, right? And speaking of very far to us, forget that. Absolutely, right? I mean, you absolutely, aloha. I love your analogies. just think about yourself. We talk about a fractal. That's a perfect analogy. So we're beings on the earth, and you look at the earth as a living being, right? And you would say, well, goodness, I don't look like the earth. That doesn't make sense. But look at yourself, right? You're trillions of cells that don't look anything like you, right? Your cells don't have eyes, ears, nose, and all of these things. They're part of you. They're part of you, just like you're part of the earth, just like the earth's part of the solar system part of a galaxy. It's a fractal, right? So we're part of that fractal, right? And we're just experiencing this aspect of it. And even in some of the older cave art, you can see them drawing, fractals and trees of life and things of that nature. So I mean, there was awareness of this, before, and we're getting back to this. Poor righteous teacher, what's good? Frederick, appreciate you joining. Yeah, we're just trying to talk about this from a simple standpoint. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, being like air being inside of your lungs. So us fighting each other over superficial things is like air fighting each other, right? It's the same air in this lungs fighting over air in this lungs. And we're doing that because we're stuck into the physical side of ourselves, not the spiritual side. We don't realize that we're the same air. We think there's black air, white air, this air, that air. And that control is what we're dealing with now. So, all right, yes, I'm over here snapping a circle. Snapping a circle. All right, y'all. Well, I feel like I'm kind of going in circles over here as well, Aloha. Because again, I don't want to beat a dead horse with this, but I mean, if you guys are good, then I'm good. And I'll let you know. I'll check back in with you. And oh yeah, and this is the other thing, comedy. And this is the other thing. This is part of me stepping out of my shell, is try to use comedy to talk on this level. So I have a couple stories, and we'll kind of play with this. We'll kind of play with this as well. So hopefully I'll be able to go. Well, I don't think I'll be going live on TikTok, but I have a replay for that, man. Man, ladies, and gents and beings and whatever. Eventually we'll get past all the labels, but we're all spiritual beings, so namaste, all that good stuff. Yeah, you have a good one too, man. Appreciate everything. Appreciate y'all joining in. Appreciate the time, and yeah, we'll keep on moving. All right, y'all. Peace.